Project management, what exactly is it? You've probably watched some videos telling you about project management and what it is, but today we're going to take it a step further. What is different about this video is I will be showing you a plethora of documents and tools that are used to manage projects. Now, what is a project? It's a temporary endeavor that is undertaken to deliver a unique product, a unique service, a unique result, or some specific outcome. That is exactly what projects are. So a project could be building a house, developing software, building a hospital, creating some deliverable that is an add-on to another deliverable, or revamping infrastructure, maybe even moving a company from one building to another. Whatever has a start and a definite end, with a set of outcomes that you're looking to get from the endeavor, that can be termed as a project. So you hear the definition. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So what exactly is project management? It is managing the project, managing that endeavor. So project management is the application of all of those abilities needed to manage the project. That's what it is in summary. Applying those skills, applying those tools, many of which I'll show you today, applying those techniques to manage the project to deliver the end result. That's the big thing about project management. Project managers deliver results. Project managers take you from having nothing, from your current state of nothing, zero, we have no system, we have no building, we haven't moved, to we've moved. We've got our end result. We've got our system. We've got our product. That is what the project manager's job is. It's taking the team from 0 to 100. Now, some people ask, do I need to be a specialist in a particular area, a particular technical area to be a project manager? The answer is no. Project management is applying project management principles and skills and techniques and abilities and leadership to get the job done. So even if you are a bit shortchanged in technology, you could still be a phenomenal project manager. It's all about being able to make things happen, being able to guide the team, being able to manage what is happening on the project so that the end result is achieved. So without much ado, you can see behind me here, initiating the project is the very first thing we do on the project. When you hear the term initiating, it really means you are putting a stamp of approval on the project and you're saying good to go. So I'm going to be showing you a number of templates here that my colleague has put together to underscore a lot of these. So let's take a look at one of the very first things you get out of initiating. The very first thing, we call it a project charter. Project charter. Your project charter will enable you not just authorize the project, but share the vision of the project in a meaningful way with people. And that is why it is always number one on my list. That is the project charter, and you can see it has some high-level information about what the project is, the project purpose. It describes the project. So in this case, it's a project to design a new backpack to cater to almost any travel, hiking, or recreational need. So this is part of a fictitious set of deliverables that we put together to underscore project management. So that is your project charter. You can see here, it has high-level information. It's 3 pages, high-level risks, project objectives, success criteria. Who is the person approving this? Scope or schedule or cost or quality. You can go deep and detailed, or you can keep it at a high level. You see, on a lot of projects, project charters do not exceed 2 pages. Some might even be 1 page. And this is all meant to be high-level budget, the project manager's authority level, staff and information. But most importantly, it has the project manager's name, it has the project sponsor's name, and in some instances, we actually get the sponsor to physically sign off on these charters. So that is an example of what you do in initiating. You initiate the project by developing the charter and getting the stamp of approval to go, to move. Now, that is not the only thing you do here in initiating. Also in initiating, we identify our stakeholders. So we have a stakeholder register. Stakeholder register, you could look at it as a catalog of sorts or a register of stakeholders. It really catalogs the stakeholders who could be affected by the project. In fact, a stakeholder is someone who is affected by the project or someone who can affect the project. So you want to identify those folks and you want to make sure you understand what exactly they are looking for from the project. So I'll show you another template here of a stakeholder register. And here's a stakeholder register. And you can see it has name, position, company, contact, role, requirement, expectation, their level of influence, their power, and category. And these are just some of the things that project managers use to keep stakeholders straight, to understand, as you can see, who are they? Who is a stakeholder? It could be an entity, it could be an individual. What is their position in the company? What is their contact information? What is their role? Any requirements, expectations, influence, or interest on the project? Those with a high level of power and a high level of influence, you definitely want to keep an eye on those. But you could categorize them into 4 quadrants. You know, those with a high level of power and a high level of interest, you know, those with a low level of power, low level of interest, so on and so forth. But that is an example of a stakeholder register. These documents are not necessarily what makes the project a home run, but it is what makes life easier for the project manager as a project manager manages projects. Now, the next thing behind me right here, you can see is called planning. And what do we do when we plan the project? Of course, we are planning various aspects and dimensions of the project. So I'm going to give you a very quick rundown of some of the things that we plan as we go through the project. There are a number of things that are planned. So let's take a look. You plan, you might have heard the triple constraint. The triple constraint, yes, that is one of the things that we plan. But I want to start out by showing you one of the very first things you should do on any project. So if you take a look at my whiteboard here, you want to think about your project like this. You want to think about it as having many different facets to plan, okay? And what are the facets? We plan the scope of the project. We plan the time element or the schedule, if you will, on the project. We plan for cost. How much will each task or activity cost us? We plan for resources on the project. We also, of course, plan how to manage risks on the project. We also plan for quality on the project. We also plan things we call contracts, or if you will, you could call them procurements on the project. You see, those are just a few of the things we plan. And don't forget, even though we've looked at the stakeholder register, we also plan how to engage stakeholders. You see, we also plan how to communicate. You see, there's a boatload of things we plan. Communication. Let's put that over there. So we plan, schedule, cost, scope, stakeholders, costs, resources, everything. Now, this is taking you into the realm of what we call the 10 knowledge areas. There are 10 knowledge areas. And the very first one is called integration. And I'm putting that right here in the middle because integration is the glue that binds all of the other knowledge areas. So in addition to integration, we have scope. We plan the scope, we plan the schedule, we plan the cost, we plan the quality, we plan the resources, we plan communications, we plan risks, we plan procurements, and we plan stakeholder engagement. And all of those need to be integrated. And that is what the project manager needs to do. Now, the level of template or tool use or technique use on projects differs, but these 10 things should be accounted for. Think about it for a second. You need to plan schedule. You need to have a plan for how to build a schedule, and you need to build a schedule. You need to scope out the project. You should be thinking about cost. You should be thinking about the unknowns that could crop up. You know, how are we going to deal with the unknowns? You need a management reserve, like a slush fund, if you will. You also need a contingency reserve for things that you've seen are likely going to happen. Don't wait till they happen. Put aside some sort of contingency for that. You see, there are many different facets that need to be planned. So I'm going to be showing you one by one all of these bits and pieces that should be planned on the project. And I'm going to start off by showing you a tool that is known as a work breakdown structure. And when I say tool, this is really something that's more of a project management plan component, but I'm using the term tool used loosely. So in the world of project management, we have this thing called a work breakdown structure. And I'm showing you wbstool.com. It's free. You can go in there and play around and create work breakdown structures. This is what a work breakdown structure looks like. It's a tree structure. It's like a family tree. But when you take a close look at it, you can see that it is structured based on the project work that needs to be done, like this. Right here at the top, that is usually the title of the project. And then down here, we have a second level, which has broken the project down into smaller components. And then we break those down even further. And this is really more of a discovery of project scope to plan out what exactly are we meant to be doing on this project. So you can see all that. That is how projects are scoped out in many firms by many project managers. We call it a work breakdown structure. So to cut to the chase here, I'll go ahead and show you an example that my buddy has put together for this demonstration. It's a WBS based on the design project for this backpack. And he's gone pretty far in creating a lot of templates and tools to show you. But let me just show you what he's done magnified. It's a little bit small. There it is. I'll just magnify it a little bit. And that is a WBS. You can see it's spread out. But right there at the top, you can see that is what we call the root node. The root node is usually the name of the project. Design, produce, and transform various easy day hikes. So he gave it the full project name. Typically, you want to shorten this project name to something less, but there you go. That's his example, and he has shortened. He has, while it's not entirely long, he has truncated the number of levels, and it's just 3 levels, but it's very spread out. And you do get some WBSs like this. So let's examine what he's done here. So he's gone into search and strategize market opportunity. That's the first major branch there, and that goes down to level 3. He has done specification and features, broken that down into smaller, more manageable parts. And then he has broken that down further. He's broken design down further, broken closing down further. So while we don't have like 7 levels, we've got 3 levels. And I'll just show you what these levels mean. When I say level, I'm really talking about these. Like this would be level 1. The very top, these that are paler blue would be at level 2. We will call that level 2. And the ones I'll circle in green, these are level 3 right there. All of these are level 3, all these right there. So a lot of WBSs stay at a level 1 or 2. They don't go all the way down. You know, some go down to level 7. Some people in a hurry, they just want, what are the major components and blocks of this project? We're fine at a level 2. Let's not belabor the point. You know, whereas some other projects, which are not just 2 days long or a week long, you might find you have to go down into 3, 4, 5 levels. Projects I've worked on in the past have gone down to 7 levels. So it really depends. You see, it's very scalable. Depending on what you're doing, you want to identify the major components of work so that if need be, you can actually use this as a costing tool. You can cost at these lower levels. So it becomes a very useful tool to help you cost the project. You know, you could cost, let's say in thousands. Okay, that's 5,000, that's 6,000, that's 10,000. And then you can roll that up. It's a very good visualization tool. You roll that up, okay, that's 21,000. And then you keep rolling up till you get to the top. It's great for planning. It's great for identifying what you need to do. It's great for sharing vision. I remember being with a group of scientists with my buddy, Colin. We went out to have a WBS workshop, and we helped them to gather their thoughts to put together a work breakdown structure. It blew their minds. Their own minds. They knew what they wanted to do, but they had never seen all of them come together with one vision, one mind, one goal, visually displayed. By the time we were done coordinating the WBS development, and we also put this information together into a robust schedule, by the time we were done, they couldn't believe their eyes. And I've seen this in many companies. It's one thing to have in your head what you want to do, but the job of the project manager is to put it all together and help everyone see the vision through things like a WBS and other tools. So that is an example of a work breakdown structure. But that's not all. Let me back up a little bit. Before you get to a work breakdown structure, you should have collected requirements. Those requirements will enable you know what the scope is. And then you could put together something called a project scope statement. So let me back up just a little bit, because you might wonder, wow, okay, I can just jump into the WBS. Not so quick. There are a few things you might want to do first, okay? So before you jump into your WBS, you may want to have some sort of requirement documentation, or you might want to create an Excel table of requirements to origin. What are the requirements and who asked for it? That we call a requirements traceability matrix. So if you take a look at this, this is a requirements traceability matrix. And the requirements traceability matrix has the requirement, as you can see. And in addition to the requirement, we have the source. The requirement, who asked for it? The requirement, who asked for it? You can prioritize these, you can categorize them, and then you can have a column to show, okay, it's been internally checked and it's been externally checked, whatever that looks like. But that's a requirements traceability matrix that we use to manage requirements all throughout the project. Don't forget, if you've got any questions about any of the things I'm talking about, make sure you put them below. I'd like to get back to you with answers, okay? But that's a requirements traceability matrix. Now, in addition to the requirements traceability matrix, you might have additional requirements that are in text format and not necessarily a requirements traceability matrix. So there's something we call requirements documentation. So it may or may not be in tabular format. It could just be plain text, but this is meant to give you an idea of what that could look like. So you could have the requirements just written in text. You could have them in a tabular format. I feel where a product is concerned, the requirements traceability matrix is very helpful. Where there's services, you might find it's more text-oriented requirements. But that is an example of requirements documentation and a requirements traceability matrix. Okay. Now, when all that is said and done, there is another document, you see, that can help you before you get to your WBS. And this is called a project scope statement, and it contains project inclusions, project exclusions, and it rehashes any constraints and assumptions to make sure they're really complete. So we have the product scope, we have deliverable description, we could also call out exclusions and inclusions, and we should ensure that assumptions and constraints are well covered. And actually, the assumptions and constraints live in an assumption log, but that is going deep into the dredges of the PMBOK guide, okay? So what have we talked about so far? I told you to start a project, you want to initiate it, but then you got to plan it. And to start planning, you first of all want to get an idea of the requirements. You want to get an idea of the product deliverable description, and then you want to begin fleshing out your work breakdown structure. Okay. Now, this could be done in other ways. Not every project is managed using these exact set of tools. Okay. So very early, before we go too far, I want to begin getting you to think about other ways of managing projects, because there are many ways to manage projects. Okay. Another way that projects are managed is by using agile methods. So I'm going to show you an example of one of the agile methods out here. This is a website called Trello.com. And believe it or not, my video guy, he actually uses Trello now. I converted him to the dark world of agile, and he's drunk the Kool-Aid and he loves Trello. So here's an example of Trello. Trello, you can see it uses a Kanban board, or Kanban as they call it, board, to align what needs to be done. So we've got to do, what needs to be done, doing, what we're doing right now, and when we're done, we move the card over. So if you click on one of these cards, you can see you can make it color-coded. A lot of possibilities for the description to be typed in. What are we doing? You can actually get team members, you know, assigned or involved in this. You see, there's many things. There's many things that you can do here. But the bottom line is, when you start working on the task, you move it into the doing column. I usually recommend a WIP, that's a WIP, a work in progress, of not more than 2. If you pile on more than 2, you get disoriented and you get nothing done. And I usually have 2 things in my column when I am waiting for one to cook. When I'm waiting for one to cook, that's when I go on to another one. But ultimately, when you're done, you move it. This is a really great way of getting work done. I see this as being small teams, short periods, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, that kind of thing, for very small iterations. But if you're working on something a lot more robust, this approach may not sustain you. You may have to go larger and more robust, and you may have to scale up with some more predictability, or you may have to chop the project into smaller, discrete pieces and be very disciplined about each of your iterations. Okay, so that's Trello from the world of Agile. It could be used to manage, as you saw it, scope and schedule all at once, but you've got to be very disciplined to use those tools. All right. So next, we're going into the world of scheduling. So the work breakdown structure, I showed that to you. There's a companion document, I should say, before we get into scheduling. There's a companion document of the WBS, and that is known as a WBS Dictionary. So let me show it to you real quick. There we go. And as you can see here, the WBS Dictionary describes each of those components that I was showing you. See, I showed you a set of components. Well, the WBS Dictionary will define each one. And you can see that each WBS Dictionary component maps back to the same number identification as the WBS. So go into the WBS here. You can see this is search and strategize market opportunity. So go in here, you should be able to find it in your WBS dictionary. Let me get that dictionary open again. There we go. So you can see the dictionary and item 1 point. Okay, that's 1. Okay. So search and strategize market opportunity. And under that, you got 1.1, conduct market research, determine target marketplace, forecast sales of new backpacks, and so on. And just be aware that this could be done in a number of ways. The numbering scheme, the numbering system and approach, it differs firm by firm. All right. So that is the WBS. Now let's go into our next section, which is the schedule. The schedule. And I can see we are almost out of time. So I'm going to show you a sample schedule and just a couple of tools that you could use for this area. And we will continue from here next time. So my colleague has put together quite an elaborate array of material to explain what happens here. So in scheduling, the first thing that you do really is to plan how to schedule, and then you begin identifying the activities that need to be performed. Remember, in the world of Agile, this is done very differently. But here in predictive project management, we identify what needs to be done. We put it into a list. We call it an activity list. So we create an activity list. And then from here, the next step will be to sequence the activities, like put the activities in the order that they will occur in. In other words, creating a network diagram, as it were. A network diagram just shows networks of interdependencies and interconnections between the activities. Something else you want to do here is create a milestone list. Identify the milestones. You know, what are the major accomplishments that you're looking to achieve on the project? So we have that. And after that, we think about how long our project will take, or how long each activity will take. So we do some duration estimating to identify how long each activity will take. And that could look something like this. So we've got all of the activities. They're all mapped to whatever WBS component they belong to, or we give them a unique activity ID. But ultimately, we compute the duration. We could use a parametric estimate. As you can see there, we could use a 3-point estimate. We could use an analogous estimate. See? So regardless the estimating approach you use, The bottom line is you get to the number of time periods for each activity. And when all is said and done, then you have pretty much developed your project schedule. Now, the project schedule can be created using a number of tools. One of the tools that you could use is Microsoft Project. You could, in addition to Microsoft Project, use many other tools. So I'll show you one of such tools that is out there in the marketplace. I do not own shares there, although I have taught a few companies this, but I actually started using Microsoft Project first. So anyway, here is a tool known as Smartsheets. And Smartsheets enables you track tasks, not just using the start and end dates, also the durations. And also it gives you a visualization of what you're doing. So you can see the Gantt chart view on the right-hand side, and all those employees who have been assigned to the project are also visible. You can see the dates, start and end dates, and you can also go as far as assigning people to each task. These are some of the tools project managers use to keep the project straight. Okay? And with that, my friends, we have come to the end of part 1 of this series of what is project management, PM 101. I wanted to make it as hands-on as possible instead of just going round and round in circles blabbing about this stuff. But right now we are in planning. And in our next episode, we will continue in planning because planning is huge. There are 49 processes currently in the PMBOK guide, and about just shy of half of them are from planning. So there's a lot to talk about in planning. That's why there's so many tools and documents and plans. But we'll get down to the bottom of it. I'll show you all of these in our next episode. If there's anything in particular that you would like to see from a PM 101 standpoint, let me know. If you have found this to be interesting and you want to study more with me, I would invite you to go to our website, www.praizion.com, right here. And if you are looking for, let's say, PMP exam training, that is there. Or maybe you want to go for the CAPM exam, you could also take this very first course here. Or if you feel, oh, Phil, I'm kind of new to this, I really need to go in baby steps, scroll down and click on Project Management Night School, select that, and you'll be amazed. It's on demand. You'll get in there immediately, but you'll be amazed at how much you will be able to learn about project management in a short amount of time. And not just that, you will also be able to learn about what is new in the industry and what is happening in the world of project management, job-wise, career-wise, okay? So if that's of interest to you, hit that, and I'll see you in our next episode. Bye for now.